Welcome into today's edition of Just the Truth. Glad to have you join me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. First, it was New Jersey. Now, Donald Trump in a Bronx rally says Joe Biden's policies have slaughtered black Hispanic Americans. Trump spoke to an estimated crowd of, you ready for this now? Remember, this is in the Bronx. 30,000 plus people estimated. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden had a joint press conference with Kenyan President William Ruto and again referred to Vice President Kamala Harris as President Harris. We have the details on that for you as well. More speculation on who will actually be Donald Trump's running mate. The latest according to a poll from the University of New Hampshire Survey Center. You'll never believe who tops the list of Trump running mates in this new swing state poll. You want to guess? Send me a quick text. Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. And new overall numbers in swing states show Trump improving his lead over Joe Biden. Finally, there were rumors early this week that Elvis Presley's Memphis estate, Graceland, was going to be auctioned off. That proved to be untrue for now. But there is going to be an auction of other Elvis keepsakes, including the Bible found on his nightstand the day he died.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Former President Donald Trump waded into hostile political territory yesterday in the South Bronx to tell voters that people of color have been the biggest losers on Joe Biden's watch. Trump has broken political norms by visiting one of the most deep blue areas in New York City, a town not necessarily known for kindness to Republicans. Trump rallied a crowd of what his campaign estimated to be 25 to 30,000 supporters. Look, if it's 20,000, if it's 10,000, that's a lot of people for a Republican candidate. They're estimating 25 to 30,000. It was in the Crotona Park in the Bronx yesterday, far more than the initial 3,500 that they thought was going to attend. Those numbers appear to also include those lined up, trying outside of the event, trying to get in. Trump praised the history of New York, but complained that it was now a city in decline.
Remember, we're going to win. We're all winners. We're going to win so big, we're going to make it bigger and better than ever before. Remember that. So don't worry. By the time the other 6,000 or 7,000 people get it, it'll be very positive. Our subways are squalid and unsafe. The ceiling tiles are falling down, and they look worse than a third world country. The medians of our highways are crumbling. Our sidewalks are littered with garbage, bottles, and trash. But worst of all, the discarded needles from people that so desperately are in need of help. And we have mobs of migrants fighting our police officers and giving America the middle finger. But we are not going to let this continue. We are not going to abandon our hope and our pride. This city has given us so much, and now it is time that we are going to give it back. Together, we are going to make New York City great again, and simultaneously, we are going to make America great again.
During his speech, Trump said that the Biden administration is responsible for the policies that have fed inflation, rising crime, illegal immigration. These problems have hit impoverished communities like the Bronx the hardest, he said. He said African Americans are getting slaughtered. Hispanic Americans are getting slaughtered as well. Of course, home to one of the nation's most demographically diverse communities and one of the poorest boroughs in the New York City area, the Bronx served as the ideal backdrop for what Trump's message was yesterday. He said, on day one, we're going to throw out Bidenomics and replace it with Maganomics. He said, the minute Joe Biden shuffles out the door, I will rapidly rebuild the greatest economy in the history of the world. Trump said everybody was better off economically when he was in office. I'm not sure anyone argued with him on that. He went on to rail against Joe Biden, saying he wasn't getting the job done for the people of the Bronx and that he was grossly incompetent.
I have come tonight to talk about solving problems. The simple fact is Joe Biden is not getting the job done for the Bronx. He's not getting the job done for New York, and he's not getting the job done for America. He is incompetent, ladies and gentlemen. He is grossly incompetent. I will get the job done as I did for 4 years, and I will get it done fast. And remember this, if a New Yorker can't save this country, no one can. No one can. Get me the snake, please. The snake. Thank you, everybody. What a crowd. This is something. You know, we wanted to keep it small because who knew? This is like a love fest. Love fest. It's a love fest. We love you. Thank you, darling. Thank you. Wow. Who said we're not going to win New York? We're going to win New York so bad. You know, if we win New York, we win the whole thing.
And he's right. If he does win New York, he's probably going to win the rest, because winning New York for a Republican is almost impossible. As you heard, the crowd at times broke out chanting USA, USA. At other times they chanted we love Trump, we love Trump. Look, it's no small feat that he could get that many people to show up at a rally for him. You got to grant him that. Now, whether or not they show up and vote for him is a whole different story. But I can't imagine people getting out, taking their time to go to a rally like this if they don't support the man. I can't imagine people showing up and chanting Trump, we love Trump, and USA, USA, if they don't support the man. He vowed, if elected, to work with Democrat Governor Kathy Hochul and Democrat Mayor Eric Adams to fix the city, including renovating the subway system. He talked about ceiling tiles falling in the subway, cleaning up the parks, and removing the homeless and the mentally ill from the streets. He also used a speech to complain about the economic downturn facing the country, of course, under the Biden administration and their spending habits. He placed an emphasis on how he said that it affected black and Hispanic families the most. It affected the poorest the most. Near the end of his speech, he recited Al Wilson's song, The Snake, which he often uses as a metaphor to criticize uncontrolled illegal immigrations. At one point, you could hear him saying, get the snake, and he turned around, and I never could see exactly what he had done after that. You know, the funny thing is the Democrats they just can't stand it because Donald Trump can draw 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people, depending on the venue, and they have a hard time rustling up a small handful of people. They plan to counter-protest to this massive rally, with the Bronx Democrat Party holding their own event in the same park. Local media reported that a small group of about a few hundred protesters, they can't even get people to show up to protest. So can he do it? He's predicting that he can win New York. President Ronald Reagan, was the last Republican to carry New York in his 49-state landslide victory over Democrat presidential nominee Walter Mondale back in 1984. Hasn't been done since. Is Donald Trump the one who can do it? By the way, New York Governor Kathy Hochul, she may have had her basket of deplorables moment as she appeared to call Trump supporters clowns. She is appearing on CNN. Here's what she told Jake Tapper.
Well, I'll tell you it won't make a difference at all, Jake, and that is for Donald Trump to be the ringleader of and invite all his clowns to a place like the Bronx. New York will never, ever support Donald Trump for president. We know him better than anyone, and that means we understand what he's all about is just for himself. So this state will go solidly behind Joe Biden for president, as it has in the past. So he wants to spend his time doing these made-up fake rallies and pretending they're support here? Be my guest, because while you're doing that, Donald Trump, Joe Biden's out there on the other side making sure he's delivering for all Americans. And so go ahead, spend all your time you want in New York, because we'll be with Joe Biden, and Joe Biden's out there winning over the rest of the battleground states.
You think she really believes that? How could you stand there and say that Joe Biden is out winning over the rest of the battleground states when polls show that he's not? Joe Biden yesterday got confused as to who Vice President Kamala Harris is, calling her the president again. And she thinks that Joe Biden can win? Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Soon going to be 4 years ago that I started my journey with PhD weight loss and nutrition. I lost 30 pounds pretty quickly, I might add, and I've been able to maintain that for almost 4 years now. It'll be 4 years coming up in July. If this is the year that you have decided that you're going to get healthy, that you're going to lose that weight, that visceral fat that's so damaging around your waist, then now's the time to start. Let me encourage you to make that call today. 864-252-4925. Set up your initial consultation with PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. Boy, am I glad that I met Dr. Ashley Lucas 4 years ago, and that she got me on the right path to getting healthy. You're going to be able to do things that you may have thought you'd never be able to do again. Play with the kids, the grandkids, be able to hike and walk, and maybe play a full 18-round hole of golf and be able to do it and not get so winded. Because when you take that excess weight off, you're just going to feel better. You're going to be able to focus. You're going to be able to sleep better. Your overall health is just going to be improved. 864-252-4925. Call, set up your initial consultation. Find them online at myphdweightloss.com. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. What a contrast we have here. So you have Donald Trump with 30,000 plus people in the Bronx. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden had a press conference with Kenyan President William Ruto, and again referred to Vice President Kamala Harris as President Harris. Biden lambasted the White House press corps in the process. He complained that reporters never keep the deal when a journalist asks a second question at this joint press conference with the Kenyan president. Biden repeatedly flashed confusion. He was irritated, openly irritated. This was a 32-minute event. He mistakenly referred to Kamala Harris as President Kamala Harris, making the error for at least the 8th time as far as the press are counting, before trying to bar this reporter's second question. The guy was just doing a follow-up question. Here's the exchange.
Thank you, Mr. President. 2 questions, if I may, on...
No, 1.
I'm going to do my level best on Haiti and on Israel. And on Israel, does the United States...
1 question. I'll answer your question.
Okay. I do have a question for you, President Ruto. But before I do, I do very briefly have a question on whether the United States has any evidence at all that would substantiate the ICC prosecutors' specific allegations against Israeli leaders that they are using starvation as a tactic.
Look, we made my position known on ICC. You guys never keep the deal, but that's okay. We've made our position clear on the ICC.
I mean, how embarrassing. The President of the United States scolding this reporter like he's some child. Wilner asked first about the U.S.-supported peacekeeping efforts in Haiti, to which Kenya is contributing troops. This was a widely anticipated topic, before attempting to ask his second question about a pending arrest warrant application against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, which was filed Monday by the International Criminal Court Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan. Wilner began before Biden cut him off. And on Israel, he started to say, when Biden said, 1 question, I'll answer your question, before reading a scripted reply on Haiti. The White House press usually have some idea of what a journalist is going to ask at these type of events, either due to their recent history of questions. They know which organization they represent. They know what type of questions they've asked in the past. It's very controlled. Very much controlled. That's why you don't see Peter Doocy always getting called on, because the press officers know exactly who they believe they can trust in the press corps. So when Wilner, who frequently covers Haiti and any Haiti-related news due to interest among his readers in the Miami Herald area, which is owned by McClatchy, and the Miami Herald's one of their biggest papers, was given time to ask his question of the Kenyan president, he politely defied Biden's restriction and went ahead and asked the second question anyway. Wilner calmly proceeded, "I do very briefly have a question on whether the United States has any evidence at all that would substantiate the ICC prosecutor's specific allegations against Israeli leaders that they are using starvation as a tactic of war in Gaza, or exculpatory evidence for that matter." Wilner asked Biden if you would commit to releasing that information before any potential issuance of ICC arrest warrants. Biden said in a very irritated tone, "Look, we made our position known to the ICC. You guys never keep the deal, but that's okay. You know, we've made our position clear to the ICC." He repeated again, we don't recognize the jurisdiction, ICC, the way it's been exercised, and it's that simple. We don't think there's an equivalence between what Israel did and what Hamas did. Explain that one to me. Biden's performance at the press conference is just another example of an 80-year-old man, of an old 80-year-old man. There's some 80-year-old people who aren't as delusional as Joe Biden is. This, of course, drew immediate attention for other reasons, including his apparent confusion at multiple points throughout the news conference. I'm sure the Kenyan president is sitting there thinking, this man has lost it. This guy has his finger on a nuclear bomb, and the American people are allowing him to do so. And particularly when he called Kamala Harris president again, he said our nation's first vice president, President Kamala Harris. In response to the first Kenyan reporter's question regarding the U.S. decision not to send its own troops to Haiti, Biden appeared to claim that American troops were serving in the Democratic Republic of Congo in Central Africa. Biden said, "We're kind of occupied around the world, but we're also engaged in Congo, in the neighborhood, and, we'll continue to help mitigate human suffering there." What's he talking about? Was that even a question? And by the way, there's no such deployment that anybody knows about. Does he know something we don't know? That we have troops in Congo? Moments later, he again lost his train of thought. He was asked a second question from an American reporter, the Grio's April Ryan, who had queried him about efforts to crush a powerful Haitian gang. He said, well, what was the question? What was my question? He seemed to have forgotten what the question was. Before the fourth reporter at this presser, and remember, it's just Biden and the president of Kenya. He looked at the president and said, "That it?" As if, well, are we done here? These are just his latest stumbles, as the heat of the campaign is going to be picking up soon. A New York Times Siena College poll released in March found 73% of registered voters believe that Joe Biden is too old to be an effective president, while just 42% said the same about Donald Trump. And that's what I mean about, Donald Trump by age is just a few years younger than Joe Biden. But there's a world of difference in how the two men carry themselves. There's a world of difference Donald Trump, and I've seen him do it multiple times, he can stand in the heat and talk for an hour and a half at one of his rallies. Joe Biden can barely survive this 32-minute news conference without getting confused. How is he going to possibly hold his own in a debate with Donald Trump next month in Atlanta? It's going to be something to watch. I'm thinking about having a party. I'm thinking about having a debate watch party. I'm going to sell tickets and popcorn. You want to come? Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. And, of course, you can email me directly, joey@joeyhudson.com. Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself, if you're looking for a new appliance, to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. More speculation on who will be Donald Trump's running mate. The latest, according to a poll from the University of New Hampshire Survey Center. You're never going to believe who tops the list of Trump running of his running mates in this new swing state poll. Never going to believe it. Text me. Text me your guess. I'll tell you in a few minutes, but go ahead and text me who you think it will be. And also, new overall numbers in swing states show that Trump is improving his lead over Joe Biden. So Americans are not buying Joe Biden's story of not knowing what his son and brother were doing in these foreign business deals. And it's showing up in the polls. Former President Trump is leading Joe Biden across 7 states that could determine the results of what's going to be a heated rematch come November. These results released this week. A new Bloomberg News Morning Consult survey asked voters from key states who they would vote for in the upcoming presidential election. They found that Trump is leading Biden 48% to 44% across the 7 key swing states that are most likely going to be in play come November. Let's take them one by one. It's Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. These are the key states that could very well decide who leads our nation over the next 4 years. And this is why we need to pay close attention to what these key states are doing. The poll also found that individual state polling from states previously won by Biden in 2020 shows that Trump is now the candidate of choice. Joe Biden, there's no way he can win a rematch and not win those same states. It's just not mathematically possible. Trump is up 5 points in Arizona, according to this new Bloomberg Morning Consult poll. This state, Joe Biden narrowly won in 2020. Some people still don't believe that he did actually win it. It was so close. Right now, though, Trump is leading the Democrat president 49 to 44%. The former president's also leading in Georgia, another state that Joe Biden claims he won in 2020. According to the survey, Trump is leading in Georgia, in the Peach State as well, by 3 points, 47% to 44%. Love to hear from some of you in Georgia who are listening to us today. Do you agree? Just based on talking with your neighbors, your friends, maybe your friends at church, your family? Are things different this year than they were in 2020? The poll also reported Trump holding a 2-point lead in Pennsylvania, which is crucial, 48 to 46%, another state that Joe Biden claims to have narrowly won in 2020 and could be a toss-up. Trump leads in Wisconsin by 1 point, much closer there in Wisconsin, 47 to 46%. It's the 4th state that Joe Biden claims to have won in 2020, where the poll reported Trump has an edge going into November. The poll also found that Trump is up in North Carolina by 7 points, 49% to 42%, while Biden is tied in Nevada, both securing 47%. So we have a dead heat in Nevada But in some of these other key states, like North Carolina, are you surprised at North Carolina that Trump has that type of lead? Of course, I guess I could have predicted that based on the number of people that I saw show up in Wilmington, North Carolina, just a few weeks ago for the Trump rally. Do you believe that the attendance at these rallies directly have an impact on the number of people who vote for Donald Trump? You know, it's a real mystery because we saw these types of crowds showing up in 2020 as well. I've never seen people go to a political candidate's rally like they will to go see Donald Trump. And some people have almost made a career out of it. I've been to a number of rallies. In fact, I've lost count how many I have been to. But, for example, a few weeks ago when I went to Wilmington, that's the one that ended up being rained out, heavy thunderstorms. But I love to go and interview people. And the lady who was at first in the line, she had been there almost 24 hours before the gates were set to be open. It was like her 50th Trump rally. And I thought that was a lot. And she said, well, she pointed to another guy over there. She said he's been to like 70. He was at Trump Tower in 2015, I guess it was, when Trump famously came down the escalator. He's been to everyone since, he said. Back to the poll. Biden does have a lead in one state, and that's Michigan, but by only 1 point, 46 to 45. Again, these are results from a new Bloomberg News Morning Consult poll just released this week. The new results come amid a time when Donald Trump has spent the last month in court defending himself against this what's the so-called hush money trial. The Bloomberg survey was conducted online between May 7th through the 13th, has a margin of error of 3 percentage points in Arizona, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. The margin of error in Michigan, North Carolina, and Wisconsin is plus or minus 4 percentage points, and in Nevada, a 5 percentage point. So see, Nevada, they say that Nevada's tied, and it has a 5 percentage point margin of error. I never really understand how they could have different margins of error. Has something to do with the sample rate, I guess. So now on to the topic or the question about the poll that I told you about a minute ago. Many of you are texting. Text me who you think this is suggesting or is predicting will be Donald Trump's running mate. I don't agree with it, but the politician who tops the list of preferred running mates for Donald Trump, this is based on a new poll from the University of New Hampshire Survey Center poll, says that former Representative Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii, some of you guessed that, who ran for the 2020 Democrat presidential nomination but left her party 2 years later to become an independent, she is at the top of the list according to this New Hampshire poll, University of New Hampshire poll. Nearly a quarter, 24% of voters who indicated they are not supporting President Biden in New Hampshire named Gabbard when asked their preference for whom Donald Trump should choose as his running mate. Gabbard stood 7 points ahead of the biotech entrepreneur, multimillionaire Vivek Ramaswamy, who was one of roughly a dozen candidates who, of course, unsuccessfully challenged Trump in the 2024 GOP presidential nomination. Ramaswamy endorsed Trump as he dropped out of the White House in January immediately. Two more former primary rivals, Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, my home state senator, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, stood at 13% and 9% support, respectively. So 13% of the people believe Tim Scott would make the best vice president, while only 9% believe Florida Governor Ron DeSantis would make a good vice presidential candidate. As you know, Tim Scott endorsed Trump in January. He's been one of Trump's most enthusiastic supporters. You see him all over the place as a surrogate speaker. You see him constantly standing behind and beside Donald Trump at these rallies. I think Tim Scott would be a good choice. What do you think? Love to get your comments. You can text me. You can email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. Would you be terribly disappointed with a Tim Scott? Why would Tim? I guess a better question is, why do you think Tim Scott would not be a good vice presidential candidate? He certainly brings money to the table. some of that independent, you might even call uniparty money. And Trump's going to need money. He's going to need lots of money because the Democrats, Joe Biden or whoever the eventual Democrat nominee is, will have plenty of money. Tim Scott could bring that. Back to the poll. 6% of those questioned preferred South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. Still don't get that, how anybody would prefer her now. She has been a Trump ally. She's been a big supporter of Donald Trump. But boy, her book, she just shot herself in the foot after she shot her dog. 5% said that they would like to see former UN ambassador and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley as Trump's running mate. 5%. No. I'm not buying that. Haley, of course, was Trump's last rival just this week. How many months after she dropped out? She dropped out in March. Just this week has she admitted that she would support Donald Trump at a speech that she gave at the Hudson Institute, a conservative think tank in the nation's capital. She said that she would, in fact, be voting for Donald Trump. That's the first time Nikki Haley has suggested she would support Donald Trump. She's gone out of her way not to endorse him. And I don't know that you'd even call that an endorsement. She just said, hey, Joe Biden is a disaster, so I'm going to vote. I'm sure she's thinking for the lesser of two evils. I'll vote for Donald Trump. At a Fox News town hall in South Carolina back in February, ahead of the state's GOP presidential primary, Trump indicated that at least a half a dozen contenders, including Tulsi Gabbard, were on his short list for running mate. When mentioned, Gabbard has had nothing but praise for Trump and said that she would be open to serving on a national ticket with Donald Trump. We'll know soon enough because August will roll around and we'll have the GOP convention and we'll know. Has California just gone nuts? We've had this conversation before. The California State Senate passed 3 reparations bills this week, which advances a broader legislative effort to provide restitution to descendants of slaves in the Golden State. The bills passed this week are part of more than a dozen reparation bills proposed by the California Legislative Black Caucus earlier this year. The bills, quote, issue an apology to black Californians for the state's role in instituting slave laws and discriminatory practices since its founding. The bills will now head to the California State Assembly for votes. California introduced a package of reparations bills back in January that will give property compensation, cash payouts to the descendants of slaves and other black Californians. It's estimated this could cost the state billions of dollars. Billions with a B. Where are they going to get the money from? They're almost broke as it is. The Assembly voted down previous bills on the issue, including one which would have provided home ownership aid and another which would have offered property tax relief for descendants of slaves. The SB 1403 bill, though, passed in the state Senate this week. It addresses the creation of the California Freedmen Affairs Agency, which would ensure that a recipient of potential reparations meets the eligibility criteria. Recipients would need to be a descendant of slaves or a free black person living in the U.S. prior to the end of the 19th century. I mean, this is going to create a whole new bureaucracy in itself. California will have to hire a lot of people in order to do the research, or there'll be mass fraud, which there'll probably be fraud anyway. SB 1050 would mandate the California Freedmen Affairs Agency to pay families who have had their property seized from them due to race-based eminent domain. Now, how are you going to prove that? SB 1331 allocates funds for reparations policies signed into law by the governor previously. Democratic State Senator Steve Bradford, he's from Southern California, represents that district in the southern part of the state. He authored the 3 bills. He said on the floor of the Senate, quote, if you can inherit generational wealth, you can inherit generational debt. They consider this a debt. He said reparations is a debt that's owed to descendants of slavery. These are not a handout. It's not charity by any measure. It's what was promised. It's what is owed and what is 160 years overdue. Now, that in itself should tell you something. 160 years. And they believe that this is something that is still owed. The bills come after the California Assembly passed a bill last month accepting responsibility for, quote, all of the harms and atrocities committed by the state. Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas said in support of the bill, it is undeniable that our systems of government have been complicit in the oppression of African Americans. California's history is tarnished by the subjugation of black people. It is a wound that still needs to heal. Well, let it heal. Let it heal by bringing up reparations, by continuing to bring this up. We'll never allow it to heal. Rather than continue to bring it up and blaming current generations on something that no one living today had anything to do with, how is this going to promote healing? Forcing Californians to pay higher taxes, potentially bankrupting your state in order to pay millions, again, if not billions of dollars? Does this not just drive a wedge further between race relations? If you want to help someone, help veterans. Pay police officers more money. Pay teachers more. There's lots of ways to help people. You agree? Is California have they just gone nuts? Is there any scenario today that you believe reparations is the right thing to do? That reparations will, quote, heal the divide within race relations? Look, this is nothing new. California is part of a trend of local and state governments across the U.S. establishing task force. And in my mind, I would argue that establishing the task force to begin with just causes problems, because then you create an expectation. You create the expectation that people are going to get something. In Boston, for example, they created a task force of members that are set to propose reparations based on historical research and other factors that they have compiled by the so-called experts from City Hall. Their recommendations are due any time now. New York Governor Kathy Hochul established a reparations task force last December. They, too, are going to make recommendations. Now, not all voters support compensating black residents. A poll that was released last fall found that a majority of voters, particularly in California, are opposed to cash payments to the descendants of slaves. They don't think it's fair. Plus the fact they don't want their tax money going to this type thing. A UC Berkeley Institute of Government Studies found that 59% of voters oppose cash reparations, with 44% saying they're strongly opposed. Only 28% said that they would support the idea. So you're going to potentially pay billions of dollars against a majority of the people who live in the state who will have to foot the bill. What's wrong with that scenario? Again, I'd love to hear your take on this. Am I all wet here? Be sure and join me tomorrow at 12 noon here on News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas, for Word on the Street. This is our new show where each week we're going to talk about things that are happening in our listening area in the Carolinas and Northeast Georgia. I'm going to have some great guests. We're going to spotlight nonprofit leaders, business leaders. So join me tomorrow at 12 noon. And tomorrow I'm going to be joined by well-known actor Cuba Gooding Jr. to talk about a new movie that he and Kevin Sorbo star in. It's called The Firing Squad. Soon to be released. It's going to make you laugh. It's going to make you cry. It's going to encourage you to re-examine your faith. And it's based on the true story of three men who found themselves on the brink of execution as the countdown to their deaths began. Some very remarkable things happened. You're going to not want to miss this. And I got to tell you, it was just a blast to catch up and to talk with Cuba Gooding Jr. He's one of my favorite actors of all times. Also on tomorrow's show, Henry Lewis, Executive Director of the South Carolina EMS Association. You know, we honored law enforcement a couple of weeks ago during National Police Week. This week is the 50th anniversary of the South Carolina EMS Association and National EMS Week. So if you see an EMT at your favorite diner, pat them on the back, buy their coffee, buy their breakfast, let them know that they're appreciated. Because quite often, EMTs are the first to arrive in an emergency. So tell them you appreciate them, buy their lunch, buy them coffee. You may need them someday. So if you're in the listening area, the Carolinas, Western North Carolina, Georgia, or you can listen on the Odyssey app, 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas. I hope you'll join me every Saturday at 12 noon for Word on the Street. Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you could trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. Tony writes on the text line, if Trump nominates Haley, the quitter, for vice president, I will not vote. Rhinos in politics are also the problem with Democrats. Now, Tony, I'm going to challenge you on that one, and I know you're listening. You got to vote. You can't say I'm not going to vote. First off, I don't think Donald Trump's going to even choose Nikki Haley. But even if he did, we have to vote, Tony. We have to elect Trump and whoever he chooses as his vice president. We cannot give we cannot give Joe Biden nor any Democrat a chance at the White House for the next 4 years. Wouldn't you rather have the quitter, as you call her, Nikki Haley, in office than have Joe Biden and the real loser, Kamala Harris, just waiting for Joe Biden to fall over? Appreciate your comment, Tony. Texter says, Joey, I don't know why there's such a big deal made about the Biden's corruption. The coward Republicans will do nothing because libtards own them. Oh, maybe eventually we'll get to the bottom of this. Jeff writes, endorsements don't mean a thing to me. I use my own judgment and my own research to see who I want to vote for. It doesn't matter to me what someone else thinks. Jeff's responding to a question we had yesterday about endorsements. There's this big speculation that thehill.com was writing about, well, who's Taylor Swift going to endorse? Who's Beyonce going to endorse? I don't care who Taylor Swift endorses. Do you? Evidently, Joe Biden seems to think that Taylor Swift's last-minute endorsement last year or in 2020 helped him steal the election. I don't know. But I'm like Jeff. The fact that Taylor Swift or Beyonce or for that matter, anybody, I don't pay any attention to endorsements. I'm like Jeff. I look at the candidates themselves and see what they're going to offer. Appreciate your comment, Jeff. Jennifer writes 3 short comments on 3 big subjects. 1, illegals, arrest, detain, deport. 2, Nikki Haley, she's right. Trump needs to reach out to her supporters. Don't take their votes for granted. Was she also positioning herself, giving her continued support to become Trump's running mate? There we go again. Another person suggesting Nikki Haley may be the running mate. Stranger things have happened. Start preparing yourself. I don't think it'll happen, but I can't guarantee it won't. Thank you, Jennifer. Texter, one more thing. Jennifer had number 3, Trump trial. Praying for at least a hung jury, hoping for a not guilty verdict. That would be a big win for Trump. Texter says the only place worthy of Chris Christie's endorsement, that'd be nice, is Dunkin' Donuts. Texter, to be honest, I don't even care who Trump endorses. I make my selection of the candidates based upon my own research. And I've heard a lot of people say that, and again, this leads back to a discussion we had, I think it was yesterday, when I asked you about endorsements. And Donald Trump, for these congressional candidates, it's a big deal if Trump endorses you. You have Mark Burns in the 3rd Congressional District of South Carolina. He calls himself Trump's pastor. He's one of like 7 other candidates. Trump endorsed William Timmons in the 4th Congressional District of my home state of South Carolina. But does it mean anything? Look, I love the president. I'll support Donald Trump, but I don't need him telling me necessarily who to vote for in a congressional race. Texter says, entertainers are nothing but dancing chickens. I don't steer a country based on advice from bird brains. Be nice again. Texter, Joey, the best thing for this country in the entire world would be for the celebrities staying their own lane and just keep their stupid mouths shut. You folks aren't too keen on celebrity endorsements, are you? I'm getting that now. Texter, Nikki Haley has seen all the Trump cases falling apart, and all of a sudden she decides that she's going to endorse Trump for me. She is a snake in the grass. Look, anything Nikki Haley does, or any politician for that matter, there's going to be some advantage for them. Texter, Joey, Nikki said she would vote for Trump because Joe Biden is a catastrophe. Yes, she did. That was part of her comment. And I speculate, was she planning that? Or did it just happen to come out? I'm going to say she planned it, and she sort of did it in a low-key way rather than having a big news conference or issuing a press release saying, I'm going to support Donald Trump. She chose to sort of drop it in a comment during a question and answer period at the Hudson Institute where nobody was expecting it. Now it's done. She can move on. She can honestly say to the party, I endorsed him. I offered my support. Texter says, I'm not sure if William Timmons was actually endorsed by Trump, but obviously he's posting photos of him and Trump on stage somewhere all over town for me. Timmons is as far from Trump as you can get. He's a rhino, and he shouldn't be using Trump's photo. Well, actually, Donald Trump did in fact endorse William Timmons. There's a rumor that he may even come to the 4th District on behalf of William Timmons. There may be a Trump rally that Timmons would be involved in. Texter says, short answer, no. Any Republican that would vote for Joe Biden wasn't a Republican to begin with. Haley supporters are acting like spoiled children that didn't get their way. To add insult to injury, Haley lied about not running against Trump, and she lied about endorsing the nominee. Texter, there are no Nikki supporters. They were just Trump haters. Good point. Maybe so. Maybe those 20% or so that she continued to get even after she dropped out of the race were people who would never support Donald Trump anyway. Texter says, do you want to see liberals' heads explode? Nominate Candace Owens for vice president. Look, they'd commit suicide. We'd have a mass suicide if if Donald Trump were to name Candace Owens as his vice president. Our text of encouragement today, Joel writes, today is one of its kind. It won't come again. Bring joy to someone, speak good words, and use them to heal, encourage others, and learn to care. Thank you for that. All your comments are always welcome, and your emails as well, joey@joeyhudson.com. One final thing, there were rumors this week that Elvis Presley's Memphis estate, Graceland, was going to be auctioned off. That proved to be not the case for now. There's some legal shenanigans going on with that. But there is going to be an auction this weekend of other Elvis keepsakes, including the Bible that was found on his nightstand the day that he died. Items owned by the late king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, according to this news release, will hit the auction block on tomorrow, on Saturday, over the Memorial Weekend. And the personalized Bible that was found on Presley's nightstand after he died will be one of the items. So how did it end up there? A note from Presley's cousin, Patsy, confirms that the Bible was found on the bedside table when she went in with his dad after he was discovered dead in his home there at Graceland. In a note, she says, shortly after Elvis's passing, my Uncle Vernon and I went into Elvis's bedroom at Graceland to organize and pack many of his personal belongings. This Holy Bible was one of 3 that Elvis had on his night table. After packing them, Uncle Vernon had me to take them home for safekeeping and eventually gave them to me. Of course, Presley died August 16th, 1977. You remember where you were when you learned that Elvis Presley had died? I do. I was a junior in high school at Riverside High School, and my good friend Norman Basak and I were driving down the road when all the news broke in, and they announced that the king of rock and roll had died. One regret that I have is that I never was able to see Elvis Presley in concert. I would have loved to have seen him in concert. You can buy his Bible. It's going to be auctioned off tomorrow. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Just click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on my YouTube channel. Just search for Joey Hudson. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. Be sure and forward this edition of Just the Truth to some friends. Just click on the share button. Send it to a few of your contacts, because if we're going to build our community and we're going to win in the June primaries, and if we're going to win in November especially, we got to build an army of conservatives. The way we beat Joe Biden is through educating people, and no better way than encouraging them to listen to Just the Truth. Hey, keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your emails always welcome as well. Joey@joeyhudson.com. We're back again tomorrow. Hope you will be too. Remember, God's got this. He's still in control.